What's hiding underneath things can be scary. Underwater, under your bed, especially what's under your carpet. Except when you get new carpet from Carpet One Floor and Home. After tearing up your old carpet, they'll vacuum and apply Health Annex antimicrobial to your subfloor, disinfecting and killing mold, mildew, and any remaining general awfulness. Carpet One Floor and Home goes the extra mile to protect you, your family, and your home. Carpet One Floor and Home in Columbia, making your home beautiful, guaranteed.
Good morning and welcome to Radio Friends on Tuesday, March the 14th. We have Dr. Chris Link with us from Integrative Medicine in Jefferson City. Always a pleasure to have you here.
Paul, it's a great pleasure. Thanks for having me.
We're going to talk about something that, well, we all do every day.
We all do?
We all do it every day. You know what that is? It's sleep. Some of us sleep better than others, but we all need that restorative time for our body of sleep.
Absolutely. You know, modern science is trying to figure out all of the things that sleep does, and we're learning more and more. But clearly, it's restorative. Almost all animals have sleep of some sort, and it's, you know, so many of us have trouble with it.
Why do we have trouble sleeping as we grow older?
You know, that's not completely known, but one of the most important parts of sleep is something called slow wave sleep, Paul.
What is it called?
Slow wave or delta sleep, and it takes energy, actually, to do that. In these big sleep spindles that are about 4 or 5 hertz, 4 or 5 times a second. And that takes a fair amount of energy in the brain, and the body and brain's ability to really create that lessen. So we get less deep restorative sleep as we get older, and we get more light sleep, and that leads to some of the issues with having difficulty falling asleep and staying asleep. So it does change as we get older, not for everybody, but about 10% of our population has chronic insomnia, and then another 30% of us have this intermittent insomnia. So it's a really common problem, and sleep is really important for our health.
Now, the thing that I've noticed with myself is I go in patterns. Sometimes I will go through a period where I'll lay in bed and I just can't go to sleep. Everything is running through my mind. Other times, I fall right off. Is that normal?
Well, it is normal. And what happens, you know, the ambient stress level, these days in science called allostatic stress load in the system. When that's up, our brain is more turned on, there's more cortisol and there's more adrenaline, and it makes it harder to get good night's sleep or fighting to get that good night's sleep. And that's why one of the best treatments these days for chronic insomnia is meditation, because it lowers the overall allostatic load, the stress load in our body and our mind, and it allows us to get to sleep. I think the key for most of us to know is that a lot of us have some insomnia at some point, that it's pretty normal, that we want to do our best to kind of have habits that allow us to get more restorative nights of sleep. Most of us are never going to get a perfect night of sleep every night, but if we can get 5 or 6 good nights sleep a week, we're going to be just fine.
When are you getting your best sleep? When you first fall asleep or later in the middle of the night?
Well, it turns out, Paul, there's different phases and they're just as important. So in the first part of the sleep cycle, you get more deep restorative sleep, the deep sleep that creates the ability to restore muscles in your brain. You release something called growth hormone. One of the important ways to make sure that that's established well is go to bed early and at the same time every night to establish that pattern. Right. But later in the night, it's more the REM, the rapid eye movement sleep, and that's really important for processing of information throughout the day and learning and then storage. So all through the night, the sleep is important. The first part of the night, it's more of the deep sleep. And one of the ways to enhance that is to go to bed at a consistent time, the best you can. Yeah. Right. And also other things that really support good sleep, Paul, is to it's to make sure that you give yourself enough time in bed, go to sleep early, and then try to wind down a little bit. For the hour or so before, kind of turn the lights down, maybe go from, overhead lights to lamps. Put on some soft music, maybe take a bath, do things that relax you to wind down, and that's going to help you fall into sleep and not have to fight it so much.
Mm. Now, how do you feel about taking melatonin to help relax and sleep?
Melatonin can be helpful for people to get them to sleep. If you have a kind of a sleep onset insomnia, it can be helpful. And it's safe generally. We think it's okay. But the way I really like to do it, Paul, is to stimulate my own melatonin. And the way to do that, to really set your circadian rhythm so you have a big bump in melatonin at night, is to get some light exposure in the morning. So before I came here on this...
Did you get some what?
Bright light exposure. So before I came in this morning, I was here a few minutes early. Beautiful sunny day here in Columbia. Lots of bright light. And that bright light early in the morning, that bright blue light early in the morning, really sets our circadian rhythm. Now, tonight, when it's time to go to bed at 9:30 or 10, I'm going to have a big bump of melatonin, and I'm going to more easily fall asleep.
You know, that I know what you're saying makes total sense, because when I spend more time outside in the spring and summer and fall, it's easier for me to fall asleep at nighttime than it is on dull, gray winter days when you're not outside much.
Yeah. So those are some of the 3 do's to sleep better.
Now, what about diet? Does that have an effect on our sleep?
So absolutely, yeah. And so, well, we know that sleep is a pillar of good health. We know that good nutrition and exercise and stress management is too. But we also know some things to avoid before sleep is a big meal, because a big meal will disrupt that early phase deep sleep. It also is associated with reflux a lot. So one of the things you want to do to avoid, to get a better night's sleep more often, is to eat a little earlier in the night. The other thing to avoid, and this is a really big one, Paul, is to avoid alcohol 3 hours before bed. Though alcohol may help you fall asleep, it disrupts sleep architecture, kind of depresses that deep sleep, and it often makes you wake up 3 or 4 hours later, because as the alcohol sedation wears off, you get this paradoxical arousal. And then you wake up with your eyes bright and wide at 2 or 3 in the morning, and you can't get back to sleep. So things to avoid is not to eat late, and things to avoid too is not to drink alcohol about 3 hours before bed if you want to get a consistent good night's sleep.
Okay. And try to keep your sleep patterns the same every day. How much sleep do we normally need? Now, I know some people who think they can get by with just 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night, and I have a friend who you can't. In the long run, it's going to hurt your body.
That's true, Paul. We know that very clearly these days, that most adults need 6.5 to 7.5 hours sleep to have really restorative sleep that's going to help their body, their blood sugar, their blood pressure, their mind as they get older. There are a few people that have genetic ability to sleep less at about 5 hours, but most adults, almost all of us, need 6.5 to 7.5 hours.
That's good sleep.
Yeah, that's good sleep. That's why you want to give yourself about 8 hours of sleep time, so you get into bed, you can relax a little bit more.
Yeah.
And even if you have to get up once or twice, you're still going to get that 6.5 to 7.5 hours.
Yeah, I know that's very important to me. Sometimes people will make fun of me because I'll say I'm going to bed. I go to bed around 7:30, 8 o'clock at night because I get up at 4:30 in the morning.
So when you wake or in the middle of the night, what do you do to get yourself back to sleep? You have any...
Well, I have to go.
Yeah.
I have to go to the bathroom. That's why I wake up mainly, and then I just get back in bed. Most of the time, if I'm fortunate, I can fall back asleep right away.
So some people can't, and are not so easily. So what I ask them to do is to not look at their phone or turn on bright lights.
Oh, no, I don't do that.
Relax. Yeah.
If you want, we're out of time, but if you want more information, they can contact you at Integrative Medicine in Jefferson City, right?
Yes, and on the website at drchrislink.com. And I'll have an information sheet about better sleep on the front page.
Thank you.